Hi everyone, and welcome to this revision video on conformity with a particular focus on the Asch experiment. This is part of the social influence topic for Stage 2 psychology. Let's get started. So conformity is defined as a form of social pressure where individuals yield to group pressure. It is also defined as a change in behaviour or belief as a result of real or imagined group pressure. So our desire to be individuals is often also compromised by the fear of appearing weird or different, which often fuels conformity. So this concept was made famous by Solomon Asch's conformity experiments on different perceptions of line lengths. Now, Asch's conformity study won't be explicitly examined. However, it is the most famous scientific example using an experimental design, so it's definitely worth going through. His question was simple. Would you go along with the group and give an answer you knew to be incorrect? So the Asch conformity experiment was conducted in the 1950s. The aim was to investigate the extent to which social pressure from a majority group could affect a person to conform. There were 123 participants used in total, all undergraduate students. They were told that the experiment was investigating vision by looking at a series of lines. Participants were divided into groups of 7, placed in a room at a time, but there was only one genuine participant in the group of 7. The other 6 were Confederates, or in on the experiment with Solomon Asch. The Confederates were told to deliberately say incorrect answers, and the true nature of the experiment was to examine who would go with the group and get the answer wrong, so they would conform, or say the correct answer and appear deviant. The experiment in itself was very simple. Participants were instructed to look at the target line, and then out of the lines A, B, and C, determine which was closest in length to the target line. For the first 2 trials, everybody said the correct answer. However, after the 3rd trial, Asch instructed the Confederates to deliberately say the wrong answer, and then the level of conformity was measured by the genuine participant, whether they would say the correct answer and appear deviant from the group, or say the incorrect answer and go along with the group. On average, the real participant conformed to the incorrect answers on 32% of the trials. 74% of the participants conformed on at least one of the trials, or in other words, one of the cards. Only 26% of participants did not conform at all. If the real participant had an ally, so another participant who also gave the correct answer, conformity dropped drastically by 2/3. The conclusions that Asch got were that people will conform due to normative social influence and the desire to fit in without changing their private viewpoint. We go through normative social influence in another video as part of this topic. Asch interviewed the participants after the experiment, and when asked why they conformed, they said they knew the answers were incorrect, but they went along with the group to fit in, or because they thought that they would be ridiculed. Asch introduced several factors to determine if the level of conformity would change. So, changed the procedure and changed several independent variables to see if it would affect the dependent variable of conformity. The size of the group is one of these major factors. Conformity tends to increase as the size of the group increases because there's more pressure. However, there is little change in conformity once the group size reaches 4 to 5. With one person, so a Confederate in the group, so just a pair, conformity was 3%. With 2 others, it increased to 13%, and with 3 or more, it was 32%. Because conformity does not seem to increase in groups larger than 4, that is considered the optimal group size. The difficulty of the task is also a factor. When the comparison lines, so for example A, B, and C, were made more similar in length, it was harder to judge the correct answer, and conformity increased, reflecting Asch's results. When we are uncertain, it seems we look at others for confirmation. The more difficult the task, the greater the conformity. Lack of group being unanimous, or lack of group agreement, in other words. When one other person in the group gave a different answer from the others, and therefore the group answer was not unanimous, conformity dropped. Asch found that even the presence of just one Confederate who goes against the majority choice can reduce conformity by as much as 80%. That goes back to what I was saying before in terms of presence of an ally. Also, if the answers were given in private. Some participants were instructed to do this because they had come late, but obviously that was rigged based on the video that we will or we have seen in class of the original footage. When participants were allowed to answer in private, so the rest of the group do not know their response, conformity decreases drastically. This is because there is less group pressure and normative influence is not as powerful. Remaining anonymous or having a degree of secrecy. When participants could write their answers down rather than announce them in public, conformity dropped. This is similar to the previous concept discussed. This suggests that individuals conform because they are concerned what other people think of them, again, linking back to normative influence. Also, the status of the majority group is something to consider. If someone is of high status, so for example a boss, or who has a lot of knowledge, for example your teacher, they might be more influential, and so people will conform to their opinions more readily based on the information that they have been given, hence informational social influence. The higher the status of the group, the higher the level of conformity. That does it for this revision video. I hope you found that helpful. As always, any questions, let me know.